Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I'm bringing you a full and dedicated Gambit review because this dude is way too much fun to keep under wraps, and we did yesterday's video talking somewhat about Gambit, so I feel as though I owe him now to show you. So this is the first kind of stage we're going to be fighting him on. This is a stage 40 Corvus clear. Now I'm not going to clear the whole stage, but I do want to show you the basic gameplay of Gambit. It starts off with a mega nuke on his 5th skill, and you can see that damage is absolutely bonkers. But then you basically just have to run away using his 3rd skill and his 4th skill. And you just need to dodge enough until you can use his 5th skill again. And that's basically the gameplay. The 5th skill nukes insanely well, as you can see. But you don't want to get in close. You don't want to do anything that's going to take damage, because when you take damage, bad things happen. And even this right here is, oh, this is super dangerous. If Luna Snow had not, if Luna Snow had not mind controlled him, we can jump in a little bit, but we do want to jump right back out. But yeah, it's crazy. But it's a lot of kiting, it's a lot of positioning, and it's a lot of you need to be careful not to attack when he's iframing because you'll lose the damage. But it's a lot of creative positioning, and you need to be aware of what kind of skills the enemy has. You need to be aware of the stage hazards and how to dodge them. And so it's definitely something that can be daunting at first, but with time and with practice, you'll get better at it. But this is basically how I play him. I try not to use too many skills because I don't want to clutter up the screen too much, but you just need to rely on the 5th skill, of course, for the damage, and then don't get frozen. I'm dead. Oh, I'm not. Oh, wow, that was bad by me. But you can move around with the 5th skill, which is beautiful because you can reposition yourself while you're doing damage. Slide in here for a bit extra. The cool thing about the 3rd skill sometimes is that he actually drags himself back towards Corvus, as you guys could see, and so he actually slides back. This was stage 40, and I completely obliterated Corvus, so he can obviously go higher than 40. But that was a full run with his own leadership to give himself 50% ignore dodge, with Cyclops' energy attack buff, the 15% from his 4-star passive, and Shuri's tier 2 passive buff. Now Gambit with his 50% leadership on kinetic precision for ignore dodge, and the 33% ignore dodge from his obelisk is automatically rocking 35%, well, plus his leadership 85%. That's why I only needed one ignore dodge striker. So he is kind of built to take down those types of characters, but it's very dangerous gameplay, and it's gameplay that you have to be very aware of. And like I said, those conditional, well, if you haven't seen yesterday's video, those conditional iframes on skill 4 and skill 2, you really need to use those as defensively as possible, because there's really no way that you can afford to take any kind of damage as Gambit. We're going to do another stage here. This is Cull Obsidian stage 29. He has much higher defenses, so Gambit's damage is not going to look as impressive, even though it's a lower stage than the stage 40 we just did for Corvus. And this time around, we're going to be able to showcase a bit more of the skill rotation, because this is really what makes Gambit so much fun to play, but also this is what limits Gambit, and this is why if you're going to invest in the character, it is going to be expensive, of course. You have to buy an Exchange subscription. You do want to know what you're getting yourself into. This is not a walk in the park to play as him, and there will be times when you just get frustrated because you just die and you make a mistake. Oh, I triggered my proc early? What happened there? Nope, there we go. There's my proc. Damage is bonkers. But yeah, it's a lot of playing chicken, and it's a lot of waiting and then just striking one skill and done. I mean, it is a bit one-dimensional in terms of the way he plays. It's interesting because of the enemies that you face and learning how to position yourself against them. It's also never going to stop being entertaining to just watch your enemy's health bar melt. And because he has so many hits on his... Oh, what the hell happened? Because he has so many hits on his 5th skill, it always triggers the proc. I've almost never seen his proc get triggered when you wait the 7 seconds and you pop that 5th skill. He almost, wow, almost a full, and yeah, punished. That was kind of bad, but this is actually even easier than I originally imagined. Ooh, I dodged all of those. Give me that. But I'm kind of killing these guys too fast. I need a bigger challenge here. Gonna dive in and then dive out. But a lot of kind of almost like a boxer. You're jumping in. Ooh. Jumping in, jumping out. Oh, there you go. And that's kind of, I was kind of hoping that would happen eventually, that he would get one-shotted, so you guys can see. You're basically walking around with a gun that can kill anyone, but it's made of glass. Or it's made of, whatever, dust. So just someone comes by and, I don't know if you guys heard that, but anyways, it was a blowing nose with my mouth. I've never tried this before on the videos, so cringe lord incoming. But yeah, so that is Gambit in a nutshell. He's an absolute monster offensively, but he's pretty garbage defensively. Probably one of the lowest characters. I mean, tier 2, he's got less than 8,000 of each, very low HP, and he just takes damage all the time. I mean, not that he takes damage all the time, but whenever he takes damage, he has essentially no way of saving himself. He doesn't have any guard hit, no immunity, no invincibility, no heal, no debuff. Nothing. Very low resistances. Just really no way. No dodge. No recovery. Just nothing to protect him defensively. But the overall build is just, as I've mentioned, full offense. We got 5-star upgraded to 5-star energy attack for the video. We got 4-star still with the crit rate, but we're going to be working on that later on. Most of the skills you can leave at level 3 because they don't have amazing effect. The only ones that I would consider raising are possibly the 2 skill for the decreased speed, possibly the 3rd skill for the bleed, and then absolutely the 5th skill. You want to do that because of the all defense. The all defense down is important because that stacks on world bosses, and that's another reason why his 5th skill does so much damage. It might be a little bit misleading when you play him in something like Giant Boss, because he still does good damage, but it's not as good because that all defense is not stacking like Deadpool's all defense doesn't stack. But when it does stack for something like World Boss, shit just melts, fam. It's just like ice cream. ISO weight set, I recommend going for Power of Angry Hulk because it is one with attack speed, and he doesn't have any attack speed, so the faster he can get through some of his animations on his 5th skill, the more advantage you can take of the chain hit damage, and his 5th skill is long, so you don't want him sitting there for too long going through it. You might miss some of your procs. There's some advantage to having lower attack speed now that I think about it. When you have something like the 3rd skill, you want that iframe to last longer, but it really makes it worse to aim the timing on your 5th skill because less attack speed means you'll go through your attacks more slowly, which means that you'll have fewer hits per second, which means you could potentially miss your proc, or it could come a little bit later in the 5th skill, which means you'd lose more damage up to the proc triggering because it's triggering, 10 hits into your 5th skill rather than triggering on the 5th hit. And then the time also matters, right? So it would happen a lot faster. And so even though it might still happen on the 5th skill, instead of happening, after 0.1 seconds, it happens after 0.5 seconds. And so that's going to delay and kind of interrupt or back up future procs that you're trying to time on that 7-second loop, kind of 8-second loop. The obelisk, I don't know if you guys understood that, but it made sense to me, so hopefully it made sense to you guys. If it didn't, let me know in the comments. The obelisk / CTP would be the CTP of energy. It's definitely, in my opinion, the best one for him. I had a few thoughts about giving him one with guard break immunity because he doesn't have that, but it's kind of what I've been saying. He can't get hit. Gambit can't really get hit, and so the guard break immunity on CTP of destruction or the CTP of authority is nice, but it's just kind of giving a character something for something they should never have to do. He should never have to get guard broken because he shouldn't get hit if you're playing him. Now, you would give him a CTP of authority, or you would give him a guard break obelisk if you wanted to use him in something like Alliance Conquest, because you can't guarantee that he's going to use his 5th skill. But because of that fact, it makes him a much worse autoplay character. So whether you're autoplaying Timeline Battle, or you're autoplaying missions, or you're autoplaying Alliance Conquest or Alliance Tournament where you can't manually control your characters, Gambit could possibly be an awful character. Because if he doesn't use his 5th skill and he's too close and he doesn't iframe on his 4th or his 2nd, he basically has 3 attacks that leave him vulnerable to damage, and then he has his 3rd skill. So 1 iframe and 3 attacks that will probably get him killed within 5 seconds. So yeah, I don't expect him to be very good or very consistent in those kinds of game modes. Story missions are a little bit different because for the most part he can just one-shot all of the bosses, but against specific stages like 12-7 where he can't one-shot Surtur, in some instances auto-playing, or Odin or stage 13-8 with Thanos. Actually, you know what? I want to try that right now. But it kind of boils down to either he's going to one-shot Thanos or he's going to get one-shotted by Thanos, in which case he's dead. And in which case having guard break or not having guard break wouldn't actually change anything. Now, there are some people who are confused about what obelisk to give Gambit because they see some high-level or high-ranking Gambits using things like CTP of... yeah, he's just going to probably die. Something like a CTP of Refinement or a CTP of Authority. But, yeah, I know. Mission's too hard. But... in my opinion, these kinds of things are just trying to cover up the weakness of the character, and the weakness is so huge that you would have to give him multiple CTPs in order to really protect him enough. You would need the CTP of Refinement and a CTP of Authority just to ensure that Gambit doesn't, immediately die to a couple of hits from a character. And then you still have the problem with characters that have penetration, killing him. Even when he triggers, the guard hit on one CTP or the invincibility on another CTP. But offensively, it really is a fun time to play as Gambit, and at least in game modes where you can control him, he is an absolute monster. I want to show you guys just a little bit of PvP so you guys can get a better idea of, not that team, a better idea of what Gambit looks like. It is kind of fun to play as Gambit in PvP, but it's also a situation where it's one bang or the other. You either bang and you kill your enemy, or they bang you and you die. So for some people that's fun and living on the edge. I understand that and I get that, but for other people it's incredibly frustrating, and the lack of consistency really to them makes the character kind of unusable. So we're going to get the kill here. We're going to hopefully get the iframe in first on Captain America. The problem here as well, you can see in Timeline Battle, you have an additional problem that you don't have in other game modes where you have iframe priority. And it doesn't seem to me that Gambit has priority iframes over other characters with high priority iframes like Thanos with his 4th skill or Captain America with his 5th skill. And so you'll find even with a very good build, even with the type advantage versus Captain America, that Gambit will get his iframe interrupted even on his 5th skill, which is basically his only way of killing someone like Captain America, and then he'll just die in one shot anyways. So I wouldn't recommend building Gambit for anything other than PvE. I would expect him to be, like I've said, a kind of one-shot man, but one that is made of a brittle kind of paper that renders him pretty much useless in situations where you need some kind of defensive, tricks to make it work. Additionally, another thing that I want to point out is that for some game modes, like, oh, we actually did get part of the iframe off there, but for certain game modes, like Timeline Battle, you don't have a lot of space. Yeah, see, he iframed right away, and I don't have anything to do there. You don't have a lot of space in Timeline Battle. The arena is smaller than something like World Boss, and that actually makes it harder for Gambit to pull off these conditional iframes. And so it is really an interesting thing for them to do to a character, to give him those kinds of conditional iframes. But I think in Gambit's case, because the downside of missing those iframes is so severe, he's dead, it kind of makes the character a little bit of a... not cliche, what do you call it? Gimmick. It's a bit of a gimmick character. So with that being said, I do really enjoy playing as Gambit, and I will be bringing you guys more insane content of him, blowing through stage 40 Corvus or annihilating stage 29 Call Obsidian. There are more people out there pushing even higher stages with Gambit, so he's definitely offensively gifted, but I think that's kind of where it ends for him. So he definitely does have his flaws and his weaknesses. So let me know what you think of that insane 5th skill damage. Let me know what you think of the build and what you think of Gambit. Personally, I can't wait for him to get a uniform, because I think that could possibly solidify him as like a top 10 character if they really tried to make him OP. Now, I know some of you wouldn't want to hear that or don't want to imagine that, but if they gave, let's say, his 4th skill 5 seconds of immunity rather than an iframe, he would be a god against most characters and in most situations. So, yeah. Fingers crossed for that. Personally, let me know what you think. Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. And, of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.